Eldridge was a town choked by secrets, old secrets buried deep. Everyone knew about the hollow house, perched high on the hill overlooking the town. It was a Victorian mansion, once grand, now crumbling. Paint peeled from its walls like scabs. Windows, like vacant eyes, stared out blindly. Locals whispered of the family that died within, their souls trapped forever. Emma, new to Eldridge, was captivated. She had only lived in town for a few weeks, but the hollow house drew her in like a moth to a flickering flame. The whispers, the stories, only fueled her curiosity. One crisp autumn afternoon, with the wind whistling a haunting tune, Emma decided to see the hollow house for herself. "Don't do it, Emma," warned her classmate Peter. "It's not safe. Nobody goes near that place." Emma scoffed. "It's just an old house, Peter. What's the worst that could happen?" Peter's eyes were wide with fear. "You don't understand. It's cursed. People say if you go inside, you'll never leave," Emma laughed. "That's just a silly story to scare kids." But Peter's words lingered in her mind, a seed of doubt planted. Still, her curiosity outweighed her fear. That night, under the pale glow of the moon, she would see the hollow house. The old iron gate groaned open, its rusty hinges protesting with a screech. The house loomed above her, more menacing in the darkness. Taking a deep breath, Emma stepped onto the overgrown path. The air grew colder as she approached the house. A shiver ran down her spine, and the hair on her arms stood on end. She reached the front door, its paint cracked and peeling. It swung open with a low creak as though inviting her in. Hesitantly, she stepped inside. The air inside was heavy, thick with the scent of decay and something else, something undefinable. The silence was absolute, broken only by the sound of her own breathing. Moonlight filtered through the grimy windows, casting long, eerie shadows across the dusty furniture. Cobwebs hung from every corner like ghostly shrouds. The house felt heavy, burdened by unseen eyes. Then she heard it, a whisper, faint and indistinct, coming from the shadows at the end of the hallway. She froze, her heart pounding in her chest. "Hello?" she called out, her voice trembling. The only response was the echo of her own voice bouncing off the walls. Taking a hesitant step forward, she felt a cold draft brush past her cheek, sending another shiver down her spine. The whispers grew stronger as she moved deeper into the house. They seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. They spoke her name, their voices like icy fingers trailing down her back. She found herself in a grand ballroom, its once polished floor now covered in a thick layer of dust. On the walls hung portraits of the house's former inhabitants, their eyes seeming to follow her every move. One portrait of a young girl with piercing blue eyes seemed to stare directly at her. The girl's lips curled into a sinister smile, and Emma swore she saw the eyes in the portrait blink. Panic welled up inside her. She had to get out. Section 6. Trapped! She turned to run, but the doorway was gone. In its place was a solid wall. She ran from room to room, her heart pounding in her ears, but every exit was sealed. The house was a labyrinth, and she was trapped within its clutches. The whispers grew louder, more insistent. They swirled around her, mocking her fear. They told her she would never escape, that she would be trapped here forever, just like them. She sank to the floor, her back against the cold wall, pulling her knees to her chest. Tears streamed down her face as the whispers closed in, their voices like claws scraping against her skin. Section 7. Waking up. She woke up with a gasp, her heart racing. Sunlight streamed through her bedroom window. It had all been a dream, she realized with a wave of relief. A horrible, vivid nightmare. But as she got out of bed, she noticed something strange. There on her nightstand was a small, dusty book. She didn't recognize it. It hadn't been there before. Curiosity got the better of her, and she picked it up. The cover was blank, but as soon as her fingers touched it, words began to appear as if by magic. The Hollow House, they read. Below the title, a single sentence sent shivers down her spine. Some doors should never be opened. Section 8. The Note. Emma's hand trembled as she opened the book. The pages were yellowed with age, the ink faded. The words were handwritten in a spidery script, difficult to decipher. She skimmed through the pages, her eyes catching on phrases like whispering walls, trapped souls, and eyes that follow. Then a small folded piece of paper slipped out from between the pages. She unfolded it carefully. It was a note written in the same spidery handwriting as the book. "Beware the whispers," it read. A cold dread washed over her. The dream, the book, the note, it was all too real, too connected to be a coincidence. The Hollow House had sent her a warning. Section 9. The whispers follow. She tried to forget the dream, the book, the note. She tried to tell herself it was just her imagination running wild, but the whispers followed her. She heard them in the rustling leaves, in the creaking of her house at night, in the murmur of voices on the street. They were faint at first, almost imperceptible, but they grew stronger with each passing day. They whispered her name, their voices cold and menacing. They taunted her, reminding her that she had escaped the house, but she could never escape them. The Hollow House had marked her. She was connected to it now, bound to it by some unseen force. The whispers were a constant reminder of her encounter with the darkness, a chilling premonition that the nightmare was far from over.